Hey young guys, so I'm just about to get it back into this. I was going to come here last night and get on with it, but I decided not to. I was just buggered from work. So anyway, the little filter for this thing, got to wait for it. Unfortunately, it's not going to be here for a wee bit, but I'll just show you what it is. It's like just a little screen. Unfortunately, it's broken the end off that just sits around here. That forces all the oil through it, so it screens it. But it should be okay. It's still going to do part of its job, and hopefully just for a couple of weeks, it shouldn't make too much of a difference. The oil, we just changed the oil in there just recently, so it should be fairly clean. And I can't imagine that much shit going through it. Like there wasn't really any crack in that, but I suppose it's just one of those safety things. So hopefully I can get to it easy enough with maybe removing the charge pipe or something like that. But I'll work that out when I get down there and put it in. But anyway, I'll stop crapping on and we'll get this manoeuvred around and get it up, and we'll start plugging stuff in. So I'm just sorting out of my boxes with my bolts and bits and pieces. So that's that gearbox mount. Those little bits and pieces down there are for some of the belly pan stuff. Like some of the battery tray box stuff, and like there's the clips for the hoses, like for the water hoses and stuff like that. There's a few nuts and bolts up here, but it was mainly just stuff we took off at the last. Like that's for like heater hose down the back with those quick release connect things. So we've got a bit of that sort of stuff sitting there. I try to put stuff in boxes or in separate areas, just to make life a little bit easier. Tried. So I've got more stuff in here. So this is mainly stuff from underneath, like turbo and a few hose clamps and bits and pieces in there. So like that's an exhaust bracket, and that's the drive axle support for the bearing and bits and pieces in there. And that's obviously all the rest of the crap that's got to go on it later on. So I'll sort of sit most of this down so I've got reasonable access to it when I need it. So yeah, I'm just trying to sort some of these bits out and get ready to install some stuff. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start putting the like the aircon pump and all that sort of stuff back on. How you going, everybody? So we finally got this together last night. We've having some issues. Mainly, we've got a plug down here that goes onto the bottom of the fuel rail. For some reason, the plug doesn't want to go in there. And look, we've pulled all these plugs out and refitted them and tried to see if they go in other places, and they won't. And the one we got should go in there, but for some reason it doesn't want to seem to. So unless we have got something mixed up, but we can't get the plugs just won't go another way, and none of the other plugs in this area even remotely fit it. So yeah, we're sort of on a loss at that one. We're trying to do some more research. Still got the hoses off because we want to once we get it running, we're going to pull it outside, and we've still got the heater hose off the back here as well. That's just sitting there. So we want to flush some water through it while it's running and try and get any shit out of the system. But everything else is done. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So but yeah, we tried to start it last night, but it wouldn't fire up. But we're not sure whether we need to bleed the system. So Dad's gonna have a play with that today, and hopefully we get some thing. I stopped videoing the other day because I was just getting frustrated with a few things. So, and my mindset wasn't in the right place. But anyway, we've got it all back together. So yeah, it's just a matter of trying to suss out what's going on with that plug for the wiring for this here, and yeah, and then see if we can get it started and then get it outside and run some water through here, and then try and sort of flush the system out a bit to make sure there's no crap left in that system from all that crappy freaking coolant that was in there that had gone all rusty. Well, we don't really know, but it might have been an age thing, because it's only done the last sort of 100,000 Ks in the last sort of, it's 12 years old. We've done the first 200,000 Ks probably within about 4 years, I suppose. So it's taken another 100,000 Ks another 4 years to do 100,000 Ks. So it might have been just the age of the coolant, possibly. I don't know. Some of these modern coolants, you wonder what's going on, but it's not like some of the old stuff that you used to do all the time. But yeah, we'll sort her out. So that it's had the wrong coolant put in it, you wouldn't know. There you go, guys. So Dad's been playing along with us today, trying to get all sorted. So he's flushed the water system and bled it and all that sort of stuff. Now, the plug issue we're having was when we pulled one of the plugs out, the weather seal stayed in the thing, so that's why we couldn't get the plug back in. So we've managed to fix that and get that sorted. So now we've got all the electrical connections in, because here we had Dad got one of his mates come down with a scan tool, and they plugged it in, and they worked out there wasn't something wasn't right. So they looked into that, and it was the because the plug wasn't going in properly, because the weather seal was had come out. Yeah, they managed to pick that out of there and then put it back on the plug and put it back in. So they managed to get the plugs around the right way, and all that sorted, because it was the one on here, the bottom of the fuel rail for the pressure, and this one in here, because they're almost identical. But yeah, we had them around the wrong way for a start off, but it ended up with the weather seal stuck in one. So yeah, once we got that sorted, that's sorted now. So yeah, all we're going to do is just got to figure out how to get the fuel pressure up on this thing to so it can fire or bleed the system, basically, because you can't crack the injectors on these common rail deserts because it's just the fuel pressure is too high. If it squirts out, it'll I've heard of all sorts of nasty things happening, because it's coming through at such a high volume and such a high pressure. Yeah, that I've heard of people, cutting into people's hands and all sorts of stupid things and worse. So you got to be pretty careful with these common rail diesels. But anyway, it's got to do a little bit of research to get that right. And through my research, I've also I've figured out there's a diagnostic system you can get actually into on the car and the computer in the system. So I'm going to have a look at that later too, just to double check everything. But yeah, like, it'll tell you how long the car's been running for and everything. So not just the Ks or the mileage it's done, but it'll actually tell me how many hours it's been running, and it'll tell you heaps of stuff. So I'm going to look into that later on, just to have a wee nosy. But yeah, so yeah, we've got it all flushed, all the water system flushed. Dad said there's a heap of crap come out of it, so that's good to get all that shit out of the system anyway. So yeah, we just got to get that the fuel system bled so we can get it to fire up, hopefully. There you go, everybody. So, back here again. Thursday morning. So, yesterday, Dad got this running. I'll give you a little tip. This is your bleed valve for your fuel. If you get an extension for a truck that goes between the jewels, you get those flexible rubber hoses with the thing. It's the same fitting. What that does is that releases that valve down in here. Releases that so you can suck fuel through to bleed the system. Because he was trying to do it through the return line, like suck the fuel back from here, back through the return line to try and bleed the system. But it was having mixed results. But when we did it through here, a couple of 3 tries and we got it to run. But unfortunately, with not having that filter in the pressure line for the turbo, it's now passing oil through the turbo and blowing it through the system. So whether the seals, because it's done 300,000 k's, whether the seals were getting a bit weak, and with having that extra oil flow, it's just blowing past the seals and going through the turbo. Either that, or with that restrictor in, it's enough to not make it bad, because it was a slight bit of residue of oil in the system before that, but I wasn't terribly worried about it, because I was thinking, well, if we go to the States in another 3 or 4 or 5 months, I'll just sell it on. And it never smoked or anything like that, never really used oil, so I wasn't terribly worried about it. I thought, if we get another 6 or 7 months out of it, or 5 months out of it, go to the States, sell this before we go. It shouldn't ever be a problem, because it wasn't a problem before that. But without having that filter in there, now it's blowing oil past the seals and straight through. Dad, when I just got home last night, and Dad had this cranked up, and that was just a friggin' plume of smoke everywhere. Dad was pulling this off to try and stop it, because it was starting to overrun. So, yeah. So now we're going to come out again, because the same problem. You can't get that shit off without dropping the subframe or pulling the engine up. So, yeah, and because we haven't got a lift in here, and it's not very bloody easy to get in there anyway, to unbolt all that shit. It's because if this blooming stupid pipe thing with that big huge box thing wasn't there, and it was just a simple pipe that you could probably unbolt and get off, you'd get it off. But because that's there, that's your biggest restriction in the back there, because it's very, very tight in there anyway. But with that intake pipe down to the turbo, and then it's got that big huge box freaking canister thing on it, it just makes everything a pain in the ass. So she's got to come out again. But fortunately, we know all the tricks and secrets, and all the hose clamps and clips are all around the right way that we can get them off without fighting with anything. So yeah, so it's got to come back out again. So what I'll do is, because I've been sort of holding on to footage from us putting it in and all that sort of stuff and fighting with it, and I lost my rag with it the other day and turned the cameras off, and I just went inside. Like, that was during the weekend, trying to get it together, and then we sort of put it together off camera, and then yeah, we fought with it. Dad fought with it for a couple of days to get it to run. We had one of the weather seals had come out of the plug, and we couldn't get the plugs back in to get it running. So we've had a wee bit of fight, just silly teething things that stumble you, like they always do. There was a plug stuck in, the weather seal was stuck in that one, so we couldn't get the proper plug in it, because I'd plugged one of the wrong plugs around the wrong way, and then didn't realise when I pulled it back out that it left the weather seal on there. Just not even thinking about it, because you're too busy trying to make things fit. Yeah, and that was actually the plug that was meant to go in there, because they're all almost identical. But yeah, because I had them around the wrong way, and then I couldn't get that one there and there, and we had fought with it for hours and hours and hours, and then we realised that, Dad actually got somebody to come in the hook and diagnostic tool on just to make sure everything was right. And yeah, we then realised that that still had the weather seal on it, and we couldn't get the proper plug in it. And because we had the wires around the other way, yeah, that one there wouldn't fit in there. So, but anyway, so yeah, she's got to come back out again, and we've got to get either a second-hand turbo with a lot less Ks on it, because this has done almost 300,000 Ks. So if we can do that, we'll do that if it's cheaper, or we'll price up to get this one rebuilt and get new seals and bearings and stuff in it. So yeah, that's what we're going now, unfortunately. It's a real pain in the ass, because it would be nice to have this blooming to be able to drive around in, but anyway, it is what it is. It's a pain in the ass. But at least we know all the secrets, and all the hose clamps are all facing around the right way, so we can get stuff off quickly without fighting. You know, and everything off that needs to come off has been off, so you know, it all should come out with reasonable ease this time, not being stuck in there for 300,000 Ks. Alrighty guys, I'll catch you later on. There you go guys, welcome back to the oily mess. So we figured out what the problem was. It wasn't, well, we don't think it was that filter. Well, we definitely know it wasn't that filter. Putting too much oil through. When we had the motor down last time, we put a whole heap of, like, you know, the plastic plugs in the oil holes and fuel holes and all that sort of stuff to stop shit from getting in there when we're taking the frost plugs and all that sort of stuff out and cleaning things out. And we forgot to pick the one out of the oil drain from the turbo, so it was holding all that oil in the turbo and had to go somewhere, didn't it? So hopefully it's alright. So we got it apart, cleaning it all up, and yeah, so Dad actually managed to get this motor back out, because we'd done it once already. He actually got this motor back out today within about 5 hours, which is pretty good by himself, because I was at work. So I'll spin the camera around and I'll show you what we're up to and the mess we got. So yeah, this is the mess, and like he's been cleaning it up and cleaning out with brake clean, all that sort of stuff, especially all the intake and the exhaust and all that sort of crap. The rest will just have to burn out of the exhaust for the drive. But yeah, unfortunately, me, when I put the turbo and everything back on, still had the plug in there, and I just didn't pick it up. I pulled all the rest out, and I forgot about that one. But yeah, these are multi-port intake and exhaust. They're unusual sort of setup. So that's part of the head where it goes in. So the exhaust ports, or the intake ports, are actually in the top of the head. So yeah, they're a strange thing. Mind you, I don't know a lot about the real late model diesels, but so it's chain drive between the cams. So there's actually a cam runs in between the ports. That's really crazy. So anyway, interesting thing. So yeah, we'll get it cleaned up, get it back together. We're not going to put the motor back in tonight, but we're going to see if we can find a second-hand turbo, because it's $2,000 for a new one. Whether we can rebuild that one, I don't know. We could possibly put it back in and try it. It might be alright. It might have blown the seals out. We don't know. It could be alright. But yeah, so we're going to see if we can price up the second-hand one tomorrow, and just see whether we can find one that's done, you know, sort of way less than sort of a couple 100,000 Ks, and put another turbo on it, just in case it is going to piss all through past the seals still. But yeah, anyway, we'll get back to it. Right, how you going guys? So it's back in the hole again. Still got a bit to do. Dad done all this yesterday. So the last little clip you would have seen, it was still on the floor, and intake manifold and everything I think was still off it. I have to double check the footage. I haven't checked all the clips. I think that was the last one I did. So this is the offending plug that unfortunately, when Dad was doing all the work on it the first time, and he plugged up all the like all the fuel ports and oil ports and all the other things, when he was taking frost plugs out, he had a clear plug in the drain side of the turbo that went back into the block. And unfortunately, when I was reassembling, because he was away and putting the turbo and everything back on, I just didn't pick that up. I pulled everything else off, but I just didn't. Possibly, if it would have been red or yellow or something like that, I probably would have seen it. But I just didn't look, and I was sort of, I suppose, I was probably in a bit of a hurry. I just wanted to get the bloody thing back in and get it running again. And yeah, I missed it. Possibly because it was clear and it was sitting down in there, it just didn't show up the same. Yeah, but unfortunately, it's sometimes when two people are working on things and you can't always be there at the same time, it does make it difficult. If I'd put that in there, I probably would have pulled it out. But because he had put it in there and I didn't see it, yes, one of those simple mistakes, So yeah, it doesn't always pay to come along and finish somebody else's work either, because it's a really easy thing to miss. So yeah, we're going to get back into this shortly and get it finalised. Hopefully the turbo should be okay, we're hoping, because the cheapest alternative we can get is $800 for a second-hand one. We've actually got a bolt and the filter coming second-hand off another wrecked car, obviously. So yeah, and we're actually getting we're getting a really sharp deal on that, so it saves us having to wait for that little filter to come from overseas. So when it gets here, I'm just going to say, don't worry about it. I've already happened to get one. Depending on what the one looks like when we get here, I might replace it, but with the newer one. But if this other one gets here with the bolt, should hopefully be Monday or Tuesday, we can just pop it in. But it should be okay. I'm pretty sure we should be able to run it. That was the main reason why we had all the problems, because the oil had nowhere to go. So basically just had to fill the turbo up, and then it just pressurised back out through the thing, and it just pumped oil everywhere. We had the intercooler hanging for 3 hours, hanging out over top of a bucket, and it was still dripping oil out. There was, I don't know, there was a really good coating across the bottom of the bucket. Yeah, it might have been, maybe a couple of mils up, and the bucket was just running out of it. So whatever oil was trying to go back in the sump was just getting pumped back through the system. So no wonder it was trying to run on the oil. Yeah, but simple, silly mistake, almost caused major catastrophe, because if it did run on, it just would have blown up. So yeah, probably lucky, I guess. But yeah, no, it was just oil full of everything and everywhere. So yeah, we stripped all the intake off it and cleaned it out the best we could and all these things. We even washed that out with a bit of gas or petrol. We gave it a couple of good swills out and then just let it hang overnight, again over top of the bucket, and just let it air out and hang out, and then Dad put it back on. So hopefully we'll be right. So we're just going to assemble the last of the stuff, put the drive belt on, some of the other pipes and bits and pieces on the front axles. Got to put them back in, but yeah, a lot of the stuff Dad's got it all back in and plugged in, so it's just finishing. No, it's probably a couple of hours work, just pissing around, put the trans fluid back in again. Unfortunately, in the last time we didn't really film anything. I was hoping maybe I might have been here to help show what it was like to get this thing out. But if you get it really square and pull it up, it comes out fairly easy. Dad had it out in about 5 hours. So So yeah, it's probably one of those things. The first time you tackle it, a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, the second time, because we had a lot of the clips, like hose clips and stuff, especially in the hard to get places, around a better orientation so you can actually get at them, yeah, not quite so difficult. But anyway, we'll carry on, and we might just keep the little clips shorter, and I've got quite a bit of footage even from earlier on putting this in the first time, so I'll just go through and just do a bit of a video and just show bits and pieces. But yeah, I've sort of given up on doing a big thing of putting it in and all that sort of stuff, because it just turned into a bit of a, I don't know, bit of a clusterfuck, I suppose you'd call it, with having that plug still in. Anyway, we'll get on with it. Well, we're going to try and see if we can get the turbo off without taking the motor out, because I've had it in and out so many times. But the turbo's buggered. Obviously, judging by the pool of oil that was coming out of the exhaust when we revved it, after fixing all the other things that we sorted. We thought we might have got away with it. We'll talk to a turbo guy and he reckoned it might have got away with it, but obviously it's just the amount of oil that was pushing out because it couldn't get out the drain last time. It's ruptured the seal and it's just going straight out the exhaust. Right, how you going, guys? So welcome to the this escapade. Oh, what a mess. But anyway, so apparently you can get the turbo off one of these without dropping the engine out, and without dropping the subframe and all those sorts of things. We did it. There's a little secret. There's where the subframe goes through across the back. You could actually reach your hand up over that and you can get into the bolts. You can see them from underneath, but you sort of can't get onto them. Well, you can't feel the top one, but managed to get it off anyway. But because we're pretty 100%, we're fairly sure that the turbos, the seals are gone. Because what we did is we actually dropped that pipe off, put everything back together to make it run it, revved it, and it was still blowing shit out the back of the turbo out that pipe, because we put the main part of the pipe on. So yeah, unfortunately, pretty sure it's buggered. But the big thing is, like, when we topped this all back up in this the other day before we actually started it, I put over 3 litres of oil in it, which is, we're getting close to American gallon of oil that it actually blew through the turbo last time when we left the plug in the drain, or when I left the plug in the drain. So this is the turbo. So it's not blowing it through the system, it's supposedly blowing it out the exhaust. So we'll see. We'll get another one coming. Hopefully here it'll be. They'll probably send it to us Monday. So we actually got the bolt. They sent it to us Friday, and we got it yesterday. We put it in. So that was that little video I showed with pulling it out. So it actually come overnight. So hopefully they get that away tomorrow. We'll have it here Tuesday, and they can get it back in, put it in. It's a bit of a bitch. These 2 bolts you get from underneath, from the back. You get a spanner in here and in here. This way, this one here you have to get the bolt from the top. So I sort of lay there and held the black intake pipe out of the road for Dad, and shone a torch up in there, and I let him know if he was miles off or not, trying to get the thing in, because yeah, it's a bit of a bitch of a thing to get into. But I'll see if I can get down here and show you. Anyway, oh god, see if I can show you the oil that's on that exhaust. it's running through that exhaust. Isn't that crazy? We made a mess. I'll edit some of this footage out. Oh, jeez. Holy heck. Anyway, there's the turbo bolts on up there. Hopefully you can see. If you reach your hand over top of that cross member, that's what Dad was doing. He was reaching over top of that, and I was holding that black box and intake pipe off the turbo so he could get his hand in there easily without it getting in the road, if you know what I mean. Holding up as much as I could. He managed to undo the 2 bolts while I was lying in from the front and holding that all out of the road and holding the light in there, the old LED light. So we got it off. Took a little bit, but we got it off. So yeah, we're just waiting on the turbo. So yeah, hopefully when that comes, we're finished and done, and $800 for it.